very difficult over the years to convince advertisers and convince people that this vision that he had was something that we really
I'm Don
needed.
Cornelius, and as always in parting, we wish you love and peace. And so,
What they do?
So me, first time meeting Don Cornelius, you know he was gangster now. Don't play.
people don't know you got
No,
to
do not know.
We approached him and we asked him to pay us. And the way he responded was more disappointing. When we asked to get paid, he kicked us off the
You
show.
really can't talk about black music without bringing up Don Cornelius, the mastermind and game changer behind Soul Train. That show became the stage where icons like James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, and so many others showed out.
Don Cornelius, an innovator, the greatness for bringing so many musical giants, known or unknown, to the airways.
Don Cornelius, a true innovator, a legend for bringing so many musical giants, both known and unknown, onto the airwaves. But behind the scenes, away from the cameras, there was allegedly another side to Don. A side that was controlling, intense, and filled with dark secrets that slowly came to light, painting a very different picture of the man fans knew as Mr. Soul Train. Let's get into it. The rise of Don Cornelius. Don Cornelius came up in a world where nothing was handed to him. Life wasn't easy, but he was determined to build something bigger. After graduating from Deuceable High School in 1954, he joined the Marine Corps and spent 18 months stationed in Korea. That time gave him discipline, structure, and a sense of direction, something he carried with him for life. When he returned to Chicago, the country was already shifting. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum, voices were rising. But when he looked at television, there was a glaring gap. No real space where black culture was being represented authentically. To survive, Don worked a range of jobs. He sold tires, cars, insurance. He even spent time working as a police officer in Chicago. It wasn't flashy, but it kept things steady. By 1966, Don was 30, married to Dolores, raising 2 sons and living a stable but ordinary life. That's when he decided to bet on himself. With just $400 in his pocket, he walked away from security and enrolled in a broadcasting course. It was a huge risk, especially with a family depending on him. But Don trusted his vision. That gamble changed everything. Soon after, he landed a job at WVON, a popular black-owned radio station in Chicago, working as a DJ, news reporter, and announcer. His deep, smooth voice instantly stood out. When Don spoke, people paid attention. By 1967, he leveled up to television, joining Chicago's WCIU-TV to host a news show called A Black's View of the News. But news wasn't his passion. Don had a much bigger vision. He started organizing live music events at local high schools, calling them the Soul Train. What he noticed was clear. Black youth were craving a space where their music, their style, and their culture could truly shine.
Over the years to convince advertisers and convince people that this vision that he had was something that we really needed.
By 1970, that vision finally became real. Soul Train debuted as a daily local show on WCIU-TV. The setup was small, low budget, tiny stage, limited resources, but the energy, unmatched. But Don wasn't thinking small. He wanted national attention. At the time, major networks and advertisers weren't exactly eager to support a show centered around black faces, dancers, and music. Don didn't back down. He kept pitching, kept pushing. Eventually, sponsors took a chance after Don convinced them that
That's what you get for having such a big hit. You know?
Yeah, I needed it.
The format
black
was simple.
audiences had real spending power that was being ignored. That gamble paid off. Soon, Johnson Products, a black-owned company known for Afro Sheen, stepped in as a major sponsor. That sealed everything. On October 2nd, 1971, Soul Train made its national debut from a small studio in Los Angeles. This time, it was in color, and it hit the culture like an explosion. Artists wanted in. Kids wanted to dance on it. Everybody wanted to watch. It wasn't just a show anymore. It became a movement.
Again with the Temptations and a close-up on Don and Demita.
The format was simple but genius. Dancers lined both sides, and one by one, people strutted down the middle, showing off their freshest moves. The Soul Train line became iconic. Entire dance crazes were born there. The robot, the moonwalk, moves that would define generations. The show turned into a cultural time capsule, boldly putting Black music and culture front and center in a way America had never seen before. But behind all that shine, the man behind the curtain told a different story. While the world saw glitz, glamour, and love, peace, and soul, things backstage were far more strict. Don Cornelius ran Soul Train with an iron fist. He was a perfectionist, controlling every detail: camera angles, lighting, dancers, even the artists themselves. He was known to stop performances midway and demand retakes, no matter how big the star. Some respected his precision, but others felt it was suffocating. Then there was the issue with the dancers, the heartbeat of the show. They brought the fashion, the energy, the moves that kept audiences hooked. But here's the harsh truth: they weren't getting paid. For years, instead of money, dancers were sent home with boxes of Kentucky Fried Chicken and a few sodas. Don believed being on national TV was reward enough, that exposure and fame were more valuable than cash. But exposure doesn't pay bills. It doesn't feed families. Meanwhile, Soul Train was pulling in serious money. The people who made it what it was were essentially working for free. Eventually, some dancers pushed back, demanding payment. But instead of negotiating, Don simply removed them from the show. One of the most famous clashes involved a young dancer who would later become a Hollywood name, Rosie Perez. At just 19, Rosie joined the show, bringing a fresh East Coast flavor. Her style was raw, hip-hop inspired, and full of energy, completely different from the polished look Don preferred. Don reportedly told her multiple times that her moves were too wild, too unrefined. The tension didn't stay quiet for long. During one heated backstage moment, Rosie had enough. Instead of backing down, she grabbed her two-piece Kentucky Fried Chicken meal and threw it straight at Don, hitting him in the head. That was it. She was immediately kicked off the show. But in true Rosie fashion, she walked away with her pride intact. And looking back, that moment became a turning point. Being forced out didn't stop her, it launched her. Rosie went on to become a successful actress and choreographer. But she wasn't the only one pushing back. Deidre "Dita" Jo Freeman, a legend in her own right, was known for her wild, electrifying energy. She didn't follow rules, she created the vibe.
And we asked him to pay us, and he wouldn't pay us. And that kind of broke my heart a little bit. All we're supposed to get is chicken. We got a two-piece chicken dinner. And the way he responded was more disappointing. When we asked to get paid.
During one live show, while Joe Tex was performing, Denita jumped on stage unexpectedly and started dancing with him. The crowd loved it. But backstage, Don was furious. He signaled for her to get off immediately, but Denita ignored him and kept going. That spontaneous energy is exactly what fans loved, but it clashed with Don's obsession with control and perfection. Then there was Shabba-Doo, one of the founders of the Lockers, a group that would go on to influence street dance forever. He even joked that Soul Train dancers were paid in chicken, not money. And honestly, that wasn't far from reality.
Since the old guys like me, I don't understand why they love it so much. But that ain't my job, is it? My job is to deal with it.
Shabba-Doo eventually left, realizing he deserved better. And he was right. His career took off with films like Breakin' and Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. Another standout was Tyrone "The Bone" Proctor, who helped bring whacking, a style deeply rooted in LGBTQ+ culture, into the spotlight. His presence was bold and groundbreaking, but behind the scenes, he also dealt with unfair treatment and lack of pay. At one point, Cornelius even had to step in to cover taxes on a car Tyrone won from American Bandstand. It was complicated. Dancers loved the exposure, but many felt overlooked and exploited. Then came Don's biggest clash of all, hip-hop. Don Cornelius wasn't just a host, he was shaped by the civil rights era. He believed black culture on TV had to be presented in a polished way, something that wouldn't scare white audiences or reinforce stereotypes. For him, Soul Train was about class, elegance, and proving black music was sophisticated. So when hip-hop started rising in the late 70s and early 80s, Don didn't embrace it. To him, rap felt too raw, too aggressive, maybe even risky. He didn't see longevity in it, he saw it as noise. He once dismissed it openly, saying, "Soul Train is about real musicianship. This stuff won't last." Looking back, that take aged terribly. But at the time, his resistance created some seriously uncomfortable moments. Take Kurtis Blow. At just 19, he became the first rapper to perform on Soul Train in 1980 with his hit The Breaks. That should have been a historic moment. Instead, it turned awkward, almost embarrassing.
Never in my wildest imagination did I ever think that Don Cornelius would say what he said. My heart dropped to my feet.
Don only introduced him because executives pushed for it. After the performance, instead of celebrating, Cornelius said on air, "Yeah, well, I don't know why everybody's making so much fuss about this thing called rap, but you know, it's my job and I've got to do it." Kurtis Blow later admitted that moment hurt. Instead of recognition, he felt dismissed.
As I'm talking to him, he looks at me and was like, "Oh, you guys are intelligent." I'm like, in my mind, because you know I was young and feisty, right? You basically trying to say you thought we was stupid. So I said, "Well, what'd you expect?"
The Sugar Hill Gang had a similar experience with their hit, Rapper's Delight, in 1979. They broke barriers as the first rap group on the show. But Don's attitude was cold from the start. Master G recalled Don looking at them and saying, "Oh, you guys are intelligent," like he didn't expect that. Master G fired back, "Well, what did you expect?"
You don't smile too much.
I ain't no joke. I just.
Then came
The
Run
moment
DMC.
was tense. Even when Don later admitted their performance was good, it felt forced. The Sugar Hill Gang left knowing the energy was off. The same pattern showed up again with other pioneers. Eric B. and Rakim came on, and Don couldn't get past Rakim's calm, serious demeanor. He fixated on the fact that Rakim didn't smile for the cameras. But Rakim stood firm. He wasn't about to change who he was just to make anyone comfortable.
Well, I've been wrong before, brother. You know, I know I said you would never be nothing, but you know, now I gotta eat my words.
I said the same thing about you, and I was true.
Then came Run DMC. When they stepped onto the Soul Train stage in the early 80s, they were already flipping the game upside down. But Don just didn't see it. His introduction made it clear he didn't take rap seriously as real music. Run DMC later admitted they felt slighted, almost treated like second class compared to R&B and funk acts. But eventually, Don Cornelius couldn't hold the wave back forever. Hip-hop had become too big, too loud, and too powerful to ignore. He resisted as long as he could, but by the 90s, rap was everywhere. Don had no choice but to let it onto Soul Train. Still, deep down, he felt overwhelmed by what the culture had turned into. Groups like Public Enemy genuinely shook him. Their militant energy, bold political messages, all-black outfits, and raised fists clashed with the clean, family-friendly image he wanted for Soul Train. And when gangster rap exploded, Death Row on one side, Bad Boy on the other, it wasn't just about music anymore. Now, the real street tensions behind those records were following artists right into the building. The most intense moment came at the 1996 Soul Train Awards. Suge Knight pulled up, not just with an entourage, but reportedly with nearly 1,000 Bloods and Crips. And they weren't just there to celebrate, they were looking for Biggie Smalls. The tension was thick. It felt like things could erupt at any second. People were whispering about a possible disaster unfolding right there at Don's event. And the only reason it didn't, Don Cornelius himself stepped in. His presence kept everything from spiraling out of control. But for him, this was a breaking point. He had built Soul Train to uplift black music, to showcase its beauty, class, and power. Now it had become a place where beef and street drama followed artists through the door. Don Cornelius versus others. And it wasn't just hip-hop. Don also clashed with artists whose energy didn't fit his strict vision. Take Rick James. Their relationship? Explosive. Rick was wild, unpredictable, outspoken, and impossible to control, the complete opposite of Don's smooth, polished brand. To Don, Rick James represented everything he feared. Black music becoming too raw, too chaotic. Their interviews often turned into subtle showdowns. Don would throw slick comments about Rick's flashy outfits or over-the-top behavior, and Rick, never one to hold back, fired right back. In one unforgettable moment, Don had to eat his words after once doubting Rick's future, only to be proven wrong on the spot.
It has been reported that he was depressed and in poor health. Is that true? Was that true?
Very unhappy about some things that have gone on in his life, several years, and his health was failing.
Rick even joked about them doing a movie together, and Don quickly snapped back on air, "You can't afford me, Rick." It was a moment that played out in front of millions, awkward and unforgettable. Over time, Rick James appeared less and less, until Don eventually pushed him off the show altogether. Even legends like Marvin Gaye weren't spared from Don's controlling approach. Marvin reportedly disliked how Soul Train handled his sound and performances. He felt Cornelius, and the industry overall, interfered too much, adjusting an artist's vision for the sake of production. But these clashes with artists were minor compared to the darker stories that would later surface about Don Cornelius. Controversies to the public. To the outside world, Don was the definition of cool, the man who signed off every show with love, peace, and soul, smooth, confident, untouchable. But years later, that image started to crack. In 2022, A&E's documentary Secrets of a Playboy dropped a shocking claim that caught everyone off guard. PJ Maston, a former bunny mother at the Playboy Mansion in the 1970s, came forward with what she described as one of the most disturbing stories she had ever heard. According to her, Don Cornelius, a Playboy VIP Gold member and regular at the mansion, met two young sisters, just 20 and 21, at a Hollywood dance bar. He invited them into his VIP section, then later to an after-party at his home. The sisters got into Cornelius's Rolls-Royce and then vanished. They were gone for 3 days. When one finally escaped, she reached out for help through the Playboy network. Joe Pastro, head of Playboy security, went to retrieve them. What he found was disturbing. The women were injured, shaken, and visibly harmed. According to the claims, they said they had been separated, locked in different rooms, and restrained inside Cornelius's home. One said she could hear her sister being attacked. They described abuse too graphic to repeat. And yet, because of Playboy's strict no police policy, no charges were filed. The situation was handled quietly. The women were silenced and warned not to speak publicly. Don Cornelius's VIP status didn't change. He was back at the mansion the next week, like nothing ever happened. PJ Maston later said she carried guilt for years, believing at the time no one would believe her and that powerful figures would have buried the story anyway. However, Don's son Tony Cornelius strongly denied the claims, calling them unbelievable and pointing out there was no evidence. Even the documentary included a disclaimer noting that these allegations were never investigated or charged by police. Still, for many viewers, the story left a shadow that couldn't be ignored. Unlike those allegations, Don Cornelius did face real legal trouble later in life. On October 17, 2008, police responded to his home on Mulholland Drive after a domestic violence report. Don was arrested on felony charges, spousal abuse, and attempting to stop his estranged wife, Victoria Cornelius, a much younger Russian model, had already filed 2 restraining orders against him. In March 2009, Don pleaded non-contest to 1 charge of inflicting injury on a spouse. He was sentenced to 36 months probation, fines and mandatory counseling. Their divorce was finalized that same year, but with an unusual condition. Don was required to keep Victoria as the beneficiary on his life insurance policy, worth around $300,000. Friends said he was furious. He felt she had brought him nothing but pain, and the idea of leaving her money weighed heavily on him. But when he passed, she received every dollar. Tragic end. By then, Don was already declining. His health had been deteriorating for years. Back in 1982, he underwent a grueling 21-hour brain surgery to correct a congenital condition. He survived, but later admitted he was never the same. For the last 15 years of his life, he suffered from severe seizures, a lasting side effect. His body was weakening, and the medication offered little relief.
We wanted to take a moment to note the passing of Don Cornelius, the creator of Soul Train. He died today in Los Angeles at 75 and apparently...
On top of that, his bitter divorce from Victoria weighed heavily on him. In court documents, he wrote, "I am 72 years old. I have serious health issues. I want to finalize this divorce before I die." Friends said the marriage left him mentally and emotionally drained. He appeared exhausted, depressed, and broken. In the final 6 months of his life, things worsened. The pain became unbearable. He was described as deeply depressed, not just from his health, but from years of failed relationships, bad business decisions, and feeling like he had lost control of his life. In the early hours of February 1, 2012, Don Cornelius called his son Tony. His voice sounded weak, defeated. He told him, "I don't know how much longer I can take this." Tony rushed to his home in Sherman Oaks, but he didn't make it in time. Around 4 a.m., police responded to a shooting at Cornelius's home. They found him in a chair with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was taken to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead at 4:56 a.m. He was 75 years old. The news hit hard, not just because a legend was gone, but because it revealed the pain behind the man who once stood so strong. Tributes poured in. Artists, dancers, and fans across the world honored him as the creator of something truly special. The film project he had been working on, the real story behind Soul Train, was never completed. Instead, his son, Tony, dedicated himself to preserving his father's legacy by creating a foundation to support those dealing with mental health struggles and life's pressures. As Tony said, sometimes tragedy leads to purpose. Don Cornelius left this world the same way he lived, complex, mysterious, and unforgettable. His legacy remains layered, just like the man himself, visionary yet flawed, brilliant yet troubled, remembered for the joy he brought to millions and the darkness that followed him to the very end.